All right, this is the diet which you can use to maximize your testosterone, guaranteed. So, firstly, why testosterone? So, you can see this image on the left, it's somebody with really high estrogen, really low testosterone. On the right, it's really high testosterone and estrogen. So, basically, if you're a guy, you look better. You look more manly, which is more attractive, obviously, because women are attracted to males and males are attracted to females in most cases, okay? So, the more male looking you are, by definition, the more attractive you are. And yeah, this it can manifest itself different ways. It can give you a deep voice, it can make you tall, it can give you libido, it gives you bone strength, fertility, and all these are very good things. Like obviously the deep voice and the height are cosmetic, and then things like bone strength and fertility are just crucial to actually live a good life, right? So pretty straightforward. So let's get into it. So I'll try and make this quick, but I think this is actually important to maximize your diet is if you understand how it works. So basically in the brain, you can see that in this tiny little box there is this small area where all this signaling happens. So the hypothalamus, which is part of the brain, it releases gonadotropic releasing hormone, which we're just going to call GnRH. And you can see the image, then it basically sends this hormone, GnRH, down to the pituitary gland, which sort of looks like balls a little bit, which is sort of how I remember it. And then the pituitary gland gets that hormone. It's like, okay, we're going to release luteinizing hormone, LH. And then LH, as you can see in the other image here, LH is then sent down to the balls, down here, and then binds these receptors on the ball cells called the Leydig cells. And then the Leydig cells then creates testosterone. And it does that through converting cholesterol through like this formula. So, how to manipulate this with diet. So, firstly, obviously, we want to increase cholesterol because if the Leydig cells create testosterone with cholesterol, we can create more testosterone by increasing the cholesterol, right? So, you can literally see this image here that through like I said, it's a series of chemical reactions and like enzymes or whatever. But basically, the cholesterol eventually gets turned into testosterone, right? So cholesterol makes your cell membranes as well. So this idea that like cholesterol is bad for you or causes heart disease, there are association studies, but it sort of doesn't really make sense. I'll make a separate video on this, but just in short, it doesn't really make sense because literally every single cell in your body has a membrane built out of cholesterol. So it's at least more complicated than just it must be bad for you. Because there's also a study that was done on Swedish people, which showed that the people with the highest levels of LDL, bad cholesterol, actually lived longer, which is again counter to what we know. So it's a bit more complicated than that. Secondly, cholesterol is part of vitamin D synthesis. So you can see in this image, basically, you get cholesterol, and then cholesterol gets turned into this dehydrocholesterol. And then the UVB light goes through your skin, hits that cholesterol, or gets absorbed into your bloodstream, comes into contact with the cholesterol. Then it gets turned into pre-vitamin D, and then vitamin D3, cholecalciferol, which is like the stuff in the tablets and that. And then it will get turned into more active forms of vitamin D. So this shows calcitriol, which is made in the liver. But before that, it is calcidiol. And calcidiol is like the active vitamin D, and it actually binds to receptors on the Leydig cells in your balls and stimulates test production. So again, it's like as well as actually inherently being an ingredient to create testosterone, it also helps inadvertently stimulate more testosterone growth, if that makes sense. So it's like a double whammy, it's like a double effect. And so next we got saturated fat. So firstly, your thyroid, which is like here in your throat. Some people don't know this, but your thyroid actually produces quite a few hormones as well as like your liver and other cells and whatnot in your balls. Your thyroid is actually important for creating hormones. So it creates this hormone called T3, and T3 greatly boosts testosterone production as well. So it goes towards the Leydig cells and it tells them to create more testosterone. And this study, which I'll read in a second, actually shows that unsaturated fat intake has been shown to reduce T3 by up to 50%. So we can see here, my second point is saturated fat. Saturated fat is really crucial because saturated fat, number one, testosterone is partly built with saturated fat. And number two, saturated fat creates T3. And then T3 tells your body to make more testosterone. So there's this article, I read it in like the Oxford Journal of Medicine or something, but you can see like the whole thing's up here, so you can check it if you want. But this part that I highlighted, it says that, yeah, a number of studies have shown that reducing saturated fat in the diet and or replacing saturated fat with monounsaturated fats shows a significant decline in the circulating testosterone concentration. So people always talk about healthy fats. I wrote it a bit wrong in the bottom here. I meant increasing, not reducing. People always talk about healthy fats being unsaturated, like things in avocados or like olive oil or whatever. And I'm sure you probably heard in school or from your parents or something that saturated fats are unhealthy fats and they're bad for you and they cause heart disease. But if they were so healthy, why are they reducing testosterone? Like if they were so good for you, surely they should be increasing your biomarkers. But if testosterone is so important to bone health, longevity, attractiveness, like we just mentioned, how are these fats healthy if like by swapping them out we would reduce testosterone? Right? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense. And thirdly is zinc. So you may have heard of like oysters or shellfish being an aphrodisiac, like something that makes you horny basically. And the reason for that is because they have an insane amount of zinc. They have such high zinc. I think it's like 8 times the daily intake or something in 100 grams. So it's ridiculous. And as well, the reason why that works is because firstly, zinc increases the Leydig cell function. So again, those like the ball cells. So like the ball cells will like create more test. Secondly, it blocks this enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. So basically, if you have too much aromatase, your body will produce the testosterone, but then it'll convert it into estrogen, which is not what you want. But zinc blocks the aromatase enzyme from activating, so your body will keep more of the testosterone, create less estrogen, which is beneficial for you if you're a male. Next, it lowers SHBG, which I believe is like sex hormone binding globulin, which is basically something that binds to testosterone. So when you have testosterone in your body, a lot of it isn't free. Like free testosterone, think about free testosterone is the stuff that your body can actually use. Like it will bind to your receptors and cause those facial developments or cause the bone developments or whatever. But your body produces sex hormone binding globulin and it binds up to testosterone. And then that stops the testosterone from being able to then bind to these receptors and work properly. But zinc will actually bind to the SHBG instead, which therefore means you can use more testosterone because it's not being blocked, if that makes sense, right? And lastly, zinc actually prevents oxidative damage for testosterone. So zinc will reduce the testosterone from being broken or damaged. And zinc lowers cortisol. And cortisol, if you have chronically high cortisol, it stops your pituitary gland from releasing the GnRH, which is the starting point for testosterone production, if you remember. So let's get into food, because obviously this is a diet video. So what you really want is animal foods. Animal foods, every single animal food has saturated fat in it. Every single one, and cholesterol. Every single animal food. So obviously you can see in this picture, we've got a bunch of animal foods, but like the point is, any of these have high saturated fat and cholesterol, which are both the first two things I mentioned for increasing testosterone. Also, you want to stay away from like these modern food, like all the crap you see at like supermarkets. 90% of the stuff you see at supermarkets is shit and is killing you and is damaging your testosterone. So for example, stuff like seed oils, which is, like canola oil, vegetable oil, you might even cook with these at home, don't throw them away. But they're also in like any packaged food with a big ingredient list, you can pretty much guarantee to find it there. Chemical additives, like the ones with the long names you can't pronounce, you have no idea what the fuck it is. And it's like, why is this in my food? And even excess sugar, these all lead to insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. And those have been shown to decrease testosterone. So if you have insulin resistance, you're going to decrease testosterone. And they'll also cause more fat to be stored in your body, at least the seed oils and sugar. And then the excess fat will then also reduce the testosterone. So there's like so many ways why these things are shit, and also it's a bunch of chemicals that like will kill you and will damage your organs and will build up in your heart or whatever. So just stay away from them in general. But even for your testosterone, there's like a really marked reason why you should stay away. So obviously animal foods are great. Now we're going to go into the secret sauce. We're going to go into like the premium, like the expert, the best foods which you can have for testosterone, like a specific list. And the start things off is organ meats. Don't click off. Organ meats are superfoods. Like, I'm not trying to move like the Liver King. Obviously, we know Liver King was on steroids, but organ meats are superfoods just in general. Like, you can see this image here. This is one serving of, I think it was beef liver. It could be lamb liver. I think it's beef liver though. And you can see like in the majority of them, you're getting at least like literally half of them, you're getting pretty much your daily intake, just in 100 grams, which is, bugger all. You're getting your daily intake in like half of the vitamins you need. And a couple of them, you're getting like 10 times, 20 times. And people say hypervitaminosis, which is like where you get too many vitamins and get worried about eating organ meats for that reason. But there hasn't been a single recorded case of a human getting hypervitaminosis from eating foods or organ meats. The only cases of hypervitaminosis have came from supplements, which have way higher levels than even this, like retarded amounts because they're not regulated. So organ meats, it's never happened before. You'd have to eat a crazy amount before you get sick. And so breaking it down, for example, brain, which I've eaten like lamb brain, it's got the 9 times your cholesterol daily intake just in 100 grams. Again, this is all 100 grams. You got 9 times your cholesterol daily intake. You got 30% of your saturated fat, which again, for 100 grams is pretty good. And you got 10% of your zinc, which is pretty good, right? Then liver, you got about 125% roughly of your cholesterol daily intake. So still already over, just in 100 grams, which is great. About 10% of your saturated fat, so not as much. And then 50% of your zinc recommended daily intake. So those two things combined, if you just eat liver and brain and those two things only, because realistically you'd eat more than 100 grams of each in a day probably, you'd be guaranteed to be getting way more than 99+% of people, and you'd be optimizing your testosterone. And also other foods which aren't organs and are still really excellent and I guess are more like normal foods. So if you don't want to go eat organs, then fair enough. I get it. You can eat other things like eggs. Eggs have 60% of your cholesterol per one egg, which is really good. Their zinc isn't that great. Their saturated fat is all right, but their cholesterol is really good. So you can do eggs. Oysters, 8 times your zinc, which is ridiculous. Oysters have the highest zinc out of any food, like even higher than organs. So oysters are really, really good if you can source them. They've got an insane amount of zinc. Again, cholesterol and saturated fat, they're not that good. But if you combine like the brain with the oysters, you'd be getting the best of both worlds. You'd be getting like 8 times daily intake in both. You'd be excelling. And steak as well, it's got your daily intake of zinc, just in 100 grams of steak, especially if you got like some fat on it. Because again, the saturated fat, cholesterol, so you just get all the benefits. So you don't have to be eating these organ foods for testosterone, although like we can see in this chart, they are extremely beneficial. So I would recommend it. And now, here comes the kicker. Here's where I'm going to lose even more people. But if eating organ meats isn't too strange for you and you can get them from a good source, consider eating them raw. So disclaimer, if you get sick, it's not my fault. But I can tell you from personal experience, I've never gotten sick. And I've eaten raw meat for several months with zero problems. Never felt sick. I've just felt better than ever. I haven't felt sick once. Or I haven't thrown up, diarrhea, nothing. So eat it raw if you can get it from a good source, that is. It's really important that you make sure the meat or the oysters or the organs are all raised naturally. Especially meat, you can usually see if it's grass-fed, grass-finished, if it's low medicated, if it gets time to roam, like that sort of thing. Those are really good indicators that it's safe. I have eaten just regular supermarket meat raw before and haven't got sick, but that's more risky. So do with that what you will. It's your decision. And even if you don't eat it raw, but you do eat the organs, you're still doing better than 99% of people. So it's still a worthwhile investment for you to do. Yo, apologies for looking super red. These lights are like really red. But anyway, I was editing this video and I realized I didn't actually mention the benefits of eating it raw. I just explained like why you shouldn't be scared. But it basically comes down to nutrition. So when you think about vitamins, there are water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. So soluble pretty much means the ability of something to be part of like a mixture. That's like the simplest way to put it. So if you have fat soluble vitamins, that means the vitamins sort of homogenize, they become part of like the fat area. And same for water soluble vitamins. So when you cook stuff, like you see steam escape, which is obviously hot water. And so what happens is those water soluble vitamins evaporate and leave your food. And same thing, like when you cook steak for a long time, you see like the fat starts to burn off of the steak and form like a puddle. Most people will just chuck it away, but that means you lose your fat soluble vitamins. Bye bye fat soluble vitamins. So by eating it raw, you mitigate this loss of nutrients. But to be honest, if you sear something medium rare, if you're like scared of getting sick or whatever, it won't make a big deal because it's just the outside. Like if the inside is still raw, it's pretty fine. Like you might lose, I don't know, 5% or something. So it's not crazy. I just really avoid like something being, medium, well done, something like that. Obviously, again, not chicken or pork. But honestly, just try it raw. Again, if it's from a good source, because I think it tastes better than having it medium rare, to be honest. And like I said, I haven't got sick, so you don't really need to worry about it. But if you're scared, still doing better than most people. And just start off with like muscle meat. That's what I did at least. I started off with just, it's like some regular diced beef or something. And then I moved to like organs after that. So that would be my advice, just to get yourself used to it. Yeah, enjoy hearing what I was supposed to be saying. But best case scenario, you eat the organs and you eat all the other things and you just get this absolutely insane level of testosterone. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Implement this for a couple weeks and you should feel a marked difference. And yeah, let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, catch you later.